Welcome to Origins Explained, where we discuss the dark and sinister origins of some of our favorite TV shows and movies. Today we delve into the origins of Stranger Things, Season 1. The first season of Stranger Things tells the story of a group of friends who find themselves involved in a dangerous government conspiracy and the supernatural. The series starts with Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will, a group of young school friends playing a game of Dungeons & Dragons. In the game, they face the Demogorgon, a powerful demon lord in D&D. Will rolls to attack and fails, getting captured by the monster in the game. After being forced by Mike's mom to end the game abruptly, they each ride home on their bikes. Will feels as though something is following him and runs home, only to find out that he's all alone, and is captured by a real-life monster which his friends dub the Demogorgon. Throughout the season, the friends try to find and rescue Will. In the process, they meet a girl named Eleven who has just escaped from Hawkins' lab after being an experimental subject since birth. Eleven, who's developed psychic abilities, uses her powers to evade the government agency and to help the boys find Will. They find out through Eleven that Will is trapped in another dimension, the Upside Down. Matt and Ross Duffer, known professionally as the Duffer Brothers, created Stranger Things with the purpose of combining human drama and supernatural fear. Originally titled Montauk, Stranger Things was created as a love letter to the golden age of Steven Spielberg and Stephen King. They were influenced by many other pop culture elements such as Star Wars, Alien, and Akira. When crafting the story of a group of friends coming head-to-head with a human-eating monster, the Duffer Brothers wanted it to be based in science instead of the spiritual and magical. So they turned to real-life bizarre experiments carried out by the government during the Cold War era, namely Project MKUltra. As the story in Season 1 unfolds, we find out that Terry Ives, Eleven's mother, took part in Project MKUltra. She was subjected to a number of experiments that included taking mind-altering psychedelic drugs and floating in sensory deprivation tanks, all which happened while she was unknowingly pregnant with Eleven. Dr. Martin Brenner kidnaps the baby, faking her death, and keeps her at Hawkins' lab to further experiment on her. After Terry is released from the project, she tries to break into Hawkins' lab to get her daughter back. Unfortunately, she's captured and put through electroconvulsive therapy, which leaves her in a catatonic state. Many of the things that happened to Terry Ives actually happened in real life to test subjects of Project MKUltra. Sanctioned in 1953, MKUltra was a government mind control program carried out by the CIA where humans were experimented on to identify and develop drugs and methods that could weaken individuals and force confessions through mind control. Several methods were used and tested, such as hypnosis, sensory deprivation, abuse, and mind-altering drugs. A 1955 MKUltra document lists the purpose and scope of some of the substances that were used. These substances were used to promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness and to discredit the recipient, much like how Hawkins' lab drugged Chief Jim Hopper to make him lose credibility. They were also used to enhance perception and mental activity, cause slower and faster aging, promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol, mimic the signs and symptoms of diseases, cause loss of memory and brain damage, enhance the ability to resist interrogation techniques, test methods that cause shock and confusion for extended periods of time, produce paralysis and other forms of physical disablement, produce chemicals that cause blisters, alter personalities and create a dependence on a designated individual, cause mental confusion, lower working efficiency and ambition, distort and weaken the senses, test knockout pills that can be used in food, consumable products, and the air. Many of MKUltra's test subjects were being experimented on without their knowledge. Some of the subjects included mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and sex workers. They also experimented on CIA employees, military personnel, and agents suspected of working for enemy nations. One of the purposes of these experiments was to find drugs that would force confessions and wipe a test subject's memory clean, rendering them as robot agents. In one instance, LSD was dropped into an operative's morning coffee without his knowledge. He became psychotic and ran across Washington, seeing a monster chasing him in every car that passed him by. These experiments were not only done to US citizens, but to Canadians as well. Under the guise of a fake organization called the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, the CIA hired Dr. Donald Cameron to experiment on Canadian citizens. He was known as the creator of the psychic driving concept, a method made to cure schizophrenia through the erasing of existing memories and reprogramming the psyche. Dr. Cameron would use LSD, sensory deprivation, and electroconvulsive therapy at 30 to 40 times their normal power on his subjects. He would put patients through drug-induced comas and play loops of noises and repetitive statements that lasted between 16 to 20 hours a day. His test subjects were patients who came to him with simple and minor problems, such as anxiety and postpartum depression. His patients often faced lifelong effects, such as incontinence, amnesia, forgetting how to talk and who their parents were, sometimes confusing their interrogators for their parents. Several deaths have been linked to the MKUltra experiments, most notably that of US Army biochemist and researcher Frank Olson. Along with other subjects, he had been given LSD without his knowledge and consent. According to the official accounts, after suffering from a psychotic episode, Olson jumped from his hotel room window and fell 13 stories to his death. However, after his body was exhumed in 1994, forensic evidence indicated that Olson had suffered cranial injuries before his fall, meaning someone had knocked him unconscious. His family believes that he was murdered because he had become a security risk, as he had direct knowledge of highly classified CIA programs and experiments. According to Elizabeth Nixon, a Canadian journalist whose mother had been a test subject, the experiments continue to this day. They just go by a different name. Stranger Things can be a wildly interesting and entertaining TV show, keeping audiences on the edge of their seats. But things become a little more strange and dark once you know that these experiments happened in real life and may still be happening right now. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Origins Explained. Let us know in the comments which of your favorite TV shows and movies we should look into next time.